It's been all quiet around Naughty Dog's The Last of Us for a long time now, and the last thing we saw was back at E3 2018. That all changed yesterday during Sony's latest State of Play stream when we finally got a new look at Naughty Dog's upcoming title, and more excitingly, we got that much anticipated release date at last. Waiting until the 21st of February may seem like staring at Joel's broken watch for hours on end, but there's plenty of details we can extract from the new 3-minute trailer, and I'm here to do just that. I'm Henry, this is Pretty Good Gaming, you're watching my Last of Us 2 release date reveal trailer breakdown. The trailer opens on a shot of a walled settlement in deep winter snow. The area is very isolated and surrounded by mountains and woodlands, but it does have power. This place is more than likely Tommy's settlement in Jackson County from the first game, which used hydroelectric power generated by a nearby dam. We do actually see Tommy later in the trailer, so we'll come back to him in a bit. Next up, we see the character Tina, who we last saw in the E3 2018 trailer, getting pretty cozy with Ellie. The two are discussing the kiss they shared, which is met with an awkward smile from Ellie, meaning that this clearly takes place after that party where everyone is dancing. If you're a bit more conservative in your political views, you may well be in for a shock, because not only are these two characters gay, but they're smoking a joint. Does the decadence of youth know no bounds?
Won't somebody please think of the children?
We then return to the encampment where we see Ellie walking down the street between several buildings, in what looks like gameplay with a very Old West sort of vibe. The street is clearly well populated, as we can see people everywhere, including children, as well as several horses and even a dog. And I think we're all hoping that we can pet the dog. We see a tractor hauling timber, and buildings labelled Copper Peak Inn and Newbuck Leather are visible, which tells us that a reasonable level of civilized society is returning to the world, or at least this settlement. Newbuck Leather is, according to Wikipedia, a velvet-like cattle leather similar to suede and is one of the finer leathers, suggesting again that settlement life is reasonably comfortable and doesn't require everyone to have tougher or more practical materials like cowhide leather. However, that doesn't mean that this place is out of danger, as we see several manned watchtowers overlooking the area. Next up, we see Jessie, who we also saw at E3 2018, leading a patrol into the wilderness, reminding us that external threats are still very real. He hands Ellie a rifle and she checks it by pulling the bolt back. This would obviously be a normal part of her day-to-day life as a ranger for the camp, but it also shows us how far she's come since Joel first taught her how to handle a simple gun in the first game. Ellie, Tina, Jessie, and possibly Tommy head out on horseback into the wild, which all has a very Red Dead Redemption 2 feel to it, which is by no means a bad thing. If Ellie's horse meets the same grisly fate as the last one, Callus, I will not be impressed. On patrol, Ellie spots a fresh carcass of what looks like a moose having been brutally attacked, again making it clear that the world is still incredibly dangerous. The animal's body has been torn open, which is likely to have been caused by a predator, or probably more accurately, one of the infected, rather than a human hunter. We then cut to an over-the-shoulder view of Ellie navigating a building with a torch and then falling through the floor. What's interesting about this is that Ellie is wearing a gas mask. Ellie is somehow immune to the cordyceps infection, which is what made her so important to the Fireflies in the first game. Either the infection or her immunity to it has changed, or she's hiding her immunity and is only wearing the gas mask to blend in. The latter seems more likely to me, because she would need to keep a low profile to avoid suspicion and the Fireflies who still want her for their experiments to produce a cure. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is her immunity changing, or is she covering it all up? After crashing through the floor, we hear the iconic clickers and eventually see one shrieking at a downed Ellie. If you can't remember, these bastards are completely blind and navigate the world using sound and echolocation, and are bloody terrifying. We then move back to some more exterior shots of Ellie riding through the snow and calling out to an absent Tina before she comes across a cabin with a light coming from the inside, meaning someone is in there. She then explores the house with her flashlight, ramping up the horror as she approaches a pool of blood leading under a door. After opening the door, she is attacked and pinned to the floor and made to watch as someone is seemingly killed in front of her. While we can't confirm exactly who this is, the most obvious answer is Tina, which would explain the murder mission she's currently set herself on. In a PlayStation blog post, game director Neil Druckmann said that the game's core question is, how far would you go to exact justice against the people that hurt the ones you love? So killing Ellie's new lover at the beginning of the game establishes this pretty well. After that, we see Ellie's bare back, covered in bruises and scratches, suggesting that, to put it delicately, her enemies may have done more to her than just beating her and killing the one she loves. Next, we see a shot of Tommy at Ellie's door, bringing her a tub of something, hopefully cookies or brownies, after the ordeal she's just been through. Tommy is Joel's younger brother, but that's not to say the pair are friends. It's alluded to in the original Last of Us that Joel did some fairly unpleasant things to keep him and his brother alive during the apocalypse, which eventually drove them apart for years. At the end of The Last of Us Part 1, Joel and Ellie return to Tommy's camp, but we haven't seen Joel in any of the previous trailers, up until this one at least. It's safe to assume that their relationship is still stretched. Tommy also has a bruise on his head on the right side and a bit of a black eye, which may indicate that he was part of a rescue team to save Ellie from her captors. Back to the scene with her bare back, more of her hair is down like it was in the initial trailer and the gameplay section of the E3 demo, suggesting that this takes place sometime after her conversation with Tommy, where her hair is mostly up in a bun. Hairstyles, particularly with female characters, are often used to help tell the story and will mimic what the character is going through. Daenerys and Sansa's varying hairstyles in Game of Thrones are perfect examples of this. Her hair being down in certain scenes indicates that these take place after the traumatic event which set her on this path. Her hair is only up near the beginning of the trailer and in the relative safety of the camp before everything went south. We then see Ellie packing a pistol, presumably the same Beretta from the first game, into a backpack. We also see her stretching a bowstring, but these two moments are not the same scene since she is wearing different clothes. Packing her bag is likely to take place just before she sets out, whereas testing the bow will probably happen when the player first comes across one. The most interesting thing about the shot of the bow is what's on Ellie's wrist. It's a small brown leather bracelet which was present in the E3 2018 trailer and recent marketing material, as well as being part of some special editions of the game. Despite being labelled as Ellie's bracelet, it's not actually hers, it's Tina's. She can be seen wearing it in the E3 trailer, which adds credence to the idea that Tina's death is the trigger event for Ellie's revenge quest. We then see Ellie slowly riding through an overgrown city, which I think looks a bit like Seattle and is where the enemy faction, the Seraphites, started. More on them in a bit. It's difficult to know for sure though, so let me know your ideas down in those comments. After a brief shot of Ellie speaking to Tommy, we then see Ellie navigating more of the ruined city by boat. Unless you count the horse, vehicles were not part of the first Last of Us' gameplay, and their presence here may even suggest wider environments while retaining the game's linear feel. We see an underground subway station with guards patrolling, presumably looking for the player, followed by an interrogation of a bloody, naked man tied to a chair in a dingy bathroom. I'm definitely getting some Casino Royale vibes here. The Last of Us 2 is definitely not shying away from any brutality as things take a more aggressive turn. We see the first glimpse of ranged combat against the Seraphites, the mysterious cult that tried to hang the woman in the trailer from Paris Games Week 2017. Ellie is then shot through the shoulder with an arrow, crippling her, which forces her to manually remove it like we saw in E3 2018, and is all reminiscent of Far Cry 2's wound healing mechanic. We then see her bloody hand shaking, as it did in the very first reveal trailer, which is often associated with PTSD, and given what she seems to be going through right now, I don't really blame her. A little idiosyncrasy like this helps to make the character much more interesting, and was used to fantastic effect with Tom Hanks as Captain Miller in Saving Private Ryan. Also in this shot, we see Tina's bracelet again, which will likely act similarly to Joel's watch, a subtle reminder of what's been lost. Then Ellie is seen taking out 4 different enemies in varying, but no less brutal ways. A seemingly new type of infected is shown, which looks similar to the explosive bloaters but appears to be a tank with charging attacks, as Ellie faces off 2 at once. Ellie is then seen approaching a door before an enemy smashes through it with a huge mallet, which is exactly the kind of surprise mechanic I can get behind. We see a dog attack Ellie, which is bad news for anyone like me who always feels guilty about killing any digital good boys, but he is wearing a harness which suggests that he's not wild and is being used as a weapon by someone else. I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw an infected dog variant of the clickers in the game, because we all know how scary those bitches can be. The trailer continues its murder montage with a shot of Ellie shooting some infected in what I assume is some kind of shopping mall, based on the Bank of Viridian sign at the back and the escalator on the right. We then see a guy get blown up with visible chunks flying and everything, after what appears to be a remote or proximity bomb going off. In the past, players have been able to use nail bombs as mines, but these had to be shot manually, and this explosion looks more dynamic as if the enemy themselves has triggered it. Ellie is then seen being attacked in a car by an infected runner, which may suggest some environmentally contextual moments before seeing what is undeniably the most exciting part of the trailer. Joel's back, baby! He grabs Ellie from behind, who panics for just a moment before realizing who he is. One popular theory is that Joel is dead, and every time we see him, he is just an element of Ellie's imagination. While this is an interesting theory, I think it's unlikely, though not entirely impossible, because Jesse refers to Ellie's old man in the E3 trailer, which suggests that he is alive and an active part of the camp. Of course, Jesse could be referring to someone else, possibly Tommy, but we won't know for sure until February. Somehow, Joel looks even more grizzled than ever here, even sporting a graze on his left cheek, indicating that, if he is real, he's been through a bit of a fight to get here. And finally, we get the title card and that all-important release date of 2/21/2020, which is of course the bizarre American way of saying the 21st of February 2020. And there you have it, that is my breakdown of the Last of Us release date reveal trailer. I know I've missed some stuff, so make sure you let me know down in the comments. Are you looking forward to this game, or do you think the first one's completely overrated trash? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming to support the content we create. I've been Henry, this has been Pretty Good Gaming. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.